If you don't want to see, if you don't want to let it be, if you can't set yourself free, take your mind into another place and time. Free yourself up to find the universal mind. Universal mind. The universal mind.
Live from Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. I'm Mark Summers, and now, here's your host, Dan Harari.
Dan Harari, that's me. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live from Hollywood. I forget what I was going to say. It's Paranormal Tonight. I am Dan Harari. I have shaved my beard. I think you all saw this last week or the week before. I don't remember, but I feel like a hairless chihuahua. And then my producer, Ray Hobbs, says he actually has a hairless chihuahua barking at him as we speak. So that was pretty funny. Hope everybody is well. I'm broadcasting in color live from beautiful downtown Beverly Hills. And hope you all had a nice, safe, wonderful summer. The weather changed out here. It's nice and cool outside finally. It's very nice. For those of you who may live in L.A., Southern California, this Sunday, the 22nd, my group, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, we're having a special event from 2 to 5 p.m. this Sunday, the 22nd, 2 to 5 p.m. at the White Fire Theater in Sherman Oaks, California. It's a Hollywood Disclosure Alliance event. We have 3 special guest speakers, Thomas Jane, the movie star, Ron James, the documentary filmmaker, and Michael Schratt, who I interviewed a few weeks ago, who knows all things about Leonard Stringfield's research. And it's going to be a lot of fun, 2 to 5 p.m., Sunday the 22nd, White Fire Theater, Sherman Oaks. You're invited to come. Please support the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. And there we go. Today we have a very, very special guest, interesting guest, a dear friend of mine. And I'm going to read her little bio, and then we'll bring her in. And we will have a very interesting conversation, I am sure. Sev Talk is an author, experiencer, spiritual healer, experiencer advocate, and radio host, originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I couldn't find Turkey on a map, I don't think, but she's from Turkey. Sev emigrated to the U.S. as a little girl, and in 2017, she moved to the Inner Banks of North Carolina, and she came face to face with gray aliens who burned 2 red X marks into her back. So we're certainly going to talk about that. Sev's extraterrestrial contact started at the age of 10, and she's kept it hidden until she came out in 2018 as a speaker at AlienCon, and through her book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, which was endorsed by our mutual friend, UFO researcher Kathleen Martin. For 14 years, Sev has been a spiritual healer, conducting soul purpose sessions, we're going to talk about that, with clients around the world. These are transformative sessions that help people align with their life's purpose by redesigning their auric field. And I think I probably need that. So I may have to hire Sev to do that for me. On her new radio show, Alien Spirit with Sev, she interviews researchers, experiencers, and celebrities about all things paranormal, UFOs, and aliens. She does presentations at conferences around the world. And as an experiencer advocate, she offers guidance to contactees around the world. This is very fun. A planet and star system were named after Sev in the Star Wars galaxy. You can find the Sev Talk star system and planet in Wikipedia. And you may have heard the Sev Talk planet mentioned in an episode of Star Wars Andor. I met Sev when she became a founding member of the group Steve Bassett and I created last year, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Our goal with the HDA is to empower the public with disclosure across all forms of media. And then I got to meet Seb in person in March, early March this year, at a HDA event, and we became fast and instant friends. And she's lovely, and I'm in love with her. And here we go. So let's bring in our one and only Seb Tuck, and there she is.
You're so sweet. Hi, Dan. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
It's a
everybody.
pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Seb. It's so nice to see you again. And
So
you know,
sweet.
I wish we lived closer. You know, it would be fun to hang with you and get to know each other. But we're 3,000 miles away, so I guess once in a blue moon we'll see each
I
other.
agree. Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
So my first question is, and I'm going to read them because I don't remember anything anymore. What do you remember about being a little girl in Turkey?
Oh,
Good question, right?
yeah, that is a good question. hmm Well, I left Turkey with my parents when I was 1.
Wow. Okay.
And then we emigrated to Montreal, Canada, Quebec, where my sister was born. And then we came into the DC area. And I did not know English when I started first grade. So even though I was here in America in the DC area, I was being brought up in a Turkish way. And when I started first grade, at that age, it feels like you learn it overnight. And I was helping my parents learn it too. And I
Huh.
was learning it from Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood
Really? That's great.
and just school. And my mom was learning it from soap operas and from what I could help.
Well, when you were in Montreal, did you learn French?
That's why we came to Montreal, because my father's entire education was in French. But when we landed in Montreal, my father realized that is not the same French. That is a whole different French.
So
So there my parents are holding a baby, not knowing any language at all. My parents didn't know English, and they didn't know that particular type of French that was being spoken there. I really admire my parents for what they did.
that must have been really tough.
hmm
Yeah. So are you trilingual, English, Turkish, French today?
I don't speak French, but I speak Turkish.
Very cool. And do you have family, relatives, friends still back in Turkey?
Yeah, just about everybody, 99% are still in Turkey, are still
Wow.
in Istanbul mostly.
Wow. Do you go and visit and see them?
Yes, I've been many times. Mhm.
All right. Very cool. That's awesome. Good for you. And is your sister is younger or older? She's younger
She's
than
a couple years younger. Yeah. Now I haven't been to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey yet. Of course, one day I'm going to go, but I also would like to offer my services as a translator if anybody's going.
you. Oh, that's terrific. Of course.
Yeah.
I would think people would jump at that.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
so your first ET, all right. So you essentially grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, really. Okay.
Yes.
So your first ET contact, you say, was at 10. And was
Yes.
that in the D.C. area?
Yes, it was in a town called Crofton, which is between DC and Annapolis.
Okay. Can you tell us about that? Because that's
Mhm.
fascinating. Yeah. Tell us what you're able to or what you want to.
It's my first conscious memory of ET contact, which started at 10, and it lasted for a couple of years. And each time at night, I would just find myself outside, standing in the grass, waiting for a spaceship to come. And I would see it approaching. Each time it would come from a different direction.
Wow.
And I would be so happy because it felt like a reunion,
Wow.
like somebody I loved was coming back. And this happened so many times I lost count between the ages of 10 and 12.
That's I think a motorcycle in Beverly Hills. That's not you. Unless it's my stomach because I'm hungry. But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. And the ship would come, it would land, the door would open, stairs would descend, and this being would come out, would
Wow.
walk down to meet me.
Wow.
And he looked more human than non-human. He had dark hair, dark clothes. And the only difference I remember were his ears. They were just a little bit more almond shaped, but nothing like Dr. Spock. And I wasn't watching Star Trek. I wasn't into any of that at all. And he was just checking up on me, making sure I was okay. and I loved him. And then, ding, I would find myself back in my bedroom, fully alert, no sleepiness, no grogginess. I describe it like being dropped into 3D reality from another dimension.
Wow.
And I would be confused. I'm 10 years old. And what really made it confusing was my bedroom, and being in my bedroom, my life in my bedroom did not feel as real as the experience I just had with my space brother. That was real. This is not. And to me, that was crazy thinking. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And I would tell myself, all right, you just have to forget about it and get dressed and go to 5th grade and try to be normal.
Did your space brother have a name?
I don't recall asking. I think there are elements to my meetings with my space brother that I don't consciously remember.
Did he have a helmet?
No.
Okay. Do you think he was Pleiadian? Was he?
Not
I mean, he was
sure.
benevolent and kind to you.
Very.
I have a dear friend named Mark Glenmore who's been taken by Pleiadians since the age of 5. He's 60 now. And he said they're beautiful and magnificent, and they take him on board every few years. They teach him things, and they're kind and wonderful, and he loves them. And they've never harmed him in any way. I'm just wondering if yours was Pleiadian, but you don't know where he came from.
No. He was dark-haired. I do know that.
Interesting. So you're 10, 11, 12. You're having these remarkable experiences. Were you able to?
I'm sorry.
Were you able to share them with your parents or your sister or anyone?
Oh, that's a good question, because I could have, because my parents were very modern thinkers, very innovative, total believers. My parents taught me how to meditate in 5th grade.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I could have told them, but I didn't, and I cannot explain why. I didn't tell a soul until just a few years ago. I mean, I came out in my book about it. I didn't tell anybody. So my last meeting with this space brother was different. It was around 12, and this time I was with a group of other kids, and I had never been with other kids before. And we were all lined up. I don't remember their faces, but I remember we're about the same height. And we were watching this spaceship fly away, and we were really sad because we knew we weren't going to see him again. And I heard in my head, okay, it's time to get to work. You have work to do. Now, at 12, I had no idea what that meant. I think now maybe I might understand a little bit better what that means.
Very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Do you remember being inside a ship or what it looked like? Or
not at that age.
Now that you're this age, can you see it in your mind's eye what the ship was like?
I have been on a ship before, but right now I don't know if it's when I was 10 and 12 or if it was during another event, because I've had many ET contacts.
Okay. Well, that's pretty a young age. Have you ever since met any of your fellow children who are now adults who were on the ship with you? Have you met them?
I don't know. I would like
Wouldn't you
to
love?
meet
Wouldn't you
them.
love to? Wouldn't that be great?
I would, and I would think I would instantly recognize. Maybe not. I don't know.
I think Mark Glenmore he lives in the Bay Area, and once in a blue moon, he'll see someone and they'll look at each other and they'll just they'll know each other. Like, yeah. So I think it's possible, but okay.
Wow.
In 2017, you moved to North Carolina and you came face to face with gray aliens who burned 2 red marks in your back.
Yeah.
Now we have a bunch of slides that you sent. Should I start to show those?
If you'd like to.
Would be a good time. So raise slide number 1, please.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, tell us.
This is the ET contact that changed my life. This happened in September 2017, and I just moved here to the Inner Banks of North Carolina from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. I moved to a very tiny little town here. It's the sailing capital of North Carolina.
Okay.
And it was my second morning here, and I was in my kitchen, and unpacking dishes, and it felt like something bit my butt and it hurt. So I yelled over to my partner at the time, I think something bit my butt. Will you look at it? And he's like, yeah. So I walk over to the living room and I think this is funny. And I pull down my shorts and I bend over and he's looking and he's not saying anything. And I'm starting to get nervous. I have the feeling something is not right. And there's just silence. And I also have this illogical feeling that whatever is happening has something to do with aliens.
Okay. All right.
And finally, I asked, well, did a bug bite me? And he said, yeah. And there's also a red X. And
Now
he took a picture.
so this is on your rear end that what we're looking
Yeah,
at right
it's
now.
on my left cheek. And
Okay.
it was about 1.5 to 2 inches wide and made up of these little small circles that looked like they were burned into my skin.
Wow.
And when I ran my finger over it, I couldn't feel it. It was flush to my skin. And this picture has been around the world. The people have measured it and they're equidistant.
Okay.
And
Are they equally deep as well? The little holes?
everything seemed that way.
You know,
Mhm.
Seb, I know you're calling this an X, but if you turn your head, it could be a cross as well.
It could, but it's slightly angled.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Ever so slightly angled.
Okay. So you were in your kitchen. You suddenly feel this on your rear end, but this must have happened before you maybe felt it,
Yeah,
right?
probably the night before, maybe.
Okay.
So, or maybe it happened at that moment when the bug bit me. You know, we don't know how these things work. What if I went off and I was branded and I came right back and I didn't even know I was gone? I wonder about these things. So I said to him, we're going to pretend like this never happened. We're going to pretend like there was never an X on my.
But your partner was like, "Oh my God, what the hell was
He
that
looked at
thing?"
me. Yeah, he was stunned.
Yeah.
And leading up to this, though, he was involved in contact that we made in Roswell. So this wasn't weird to him, or it wasn't as that strange to him because he had a little bit of experience in this. And
Okay.
he wasn't 100% believer and he wasn't 100% disbeliever. He was very logical.
Okay.
But he was open-minded and very supportive. So I'm like, we were just going to ignore it because that's what I did my whole life. My whole life, I ignored missing skin, geometric marks, bruises, lights in the hallway, you name it, everything. I've been ignoring it for years, decades.
Wow.
So I tried to ignore it, but then 9 days later, ding, I come to in my bedroom fully alert, like I'm dropped from another dimension, and I have this download, visual and knowing. And I see myself on a bed, like a hospital type bed, in this room that's dimly lit, hardly any furniture. I don't know where I am. And I'm on my side. And I can't move my arms and I can't move my legs. I sense that there's something behind me. And I can move my neck. So when I turn around, I see that there is a gray standing right behind me, just inches from me, doing something to my back. And we lock eyes. And in my book, I describe it as looking into 2 pools of black oil. And I was terrified. And what was extra scary for me was that when we were looking into each other's eyes, there was no telepathic communication. And up until that point, all the contact I had with the Greys, there was always telepathic communication. This time there was nothing. It was just staring at me. And that really scared me.
Okay.
So I turned my head back around. Ding, I'm wide awake in my bedroom. And I'm very scared because I'm thinking if there's another X on me, I'm not going to be able to take it. Like I will fall off the cliff. Like this is too much for me. And so I go downstairs and I wait for him to wake up. And he always got up before I did, but not this time. So I'm waiting and I'm getting nervous. And I could have looked in the mirror, but I didn't want to because I was so scared. I just didn't want to see it.
Right.
And he comes downstairs and I start to quiz him. Did anything weird happen last night? No. Was I gone at all? No. You didn't see anything? No. So he knew something was up. So I told him what I remembered. And then there was also another element to my experience, something I knew that I had never known in any of my other ET contacts. And I knew that when I was on that bed in that room, I was on the moon.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Just
Uh,
instinctively, you know
I
that
just knew
now?
it. That's where I was. I was on the moon. And I
Wow.
had never known that before. And just saying it, it sounds crazy, but I just have to honestly tell you that was
No,
the knowing that I had.
I not only do I believe you, I mean, we don't know what's on the dark side of the moon. Well, I'm sure
Mm.
our dark government knows, but the general public, we don't know what's back there.
Yeah, well, they're putting X's on girls' asses on the dark side of the moon.
Well, maybe it's maybe like there it's an S&M, like it's an S&M group.
Oh my
It's a
gosh.
kinky group on the
Oh,
moon.
that's
All right, so
good.
did you have a mark this new time?
So I asked him to look, and once again, there was silence. And there was another mark. And when he showed me the picture, the only way I can describe it is like having an existential crisis.
Maybe that
Uh,
slide is that slide 2? Race, can we see the next one? Is that one of
those
these?
those are two of the X's, and that was the gray that was standing behind me, and he had wrinkles on his head. And so I didn't know. When I saw that second X, all of a sudden I realized my entire life of ET contact has been real. Like, holy mackerel, this is real.
Yeah.
And it just threw me into this place of nothingness. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what I was doing talking to ETs in the middle of the night. I didn't know why they were messing with me, because back then I was very afraid of them. I'm not anymore. I thought they were evil, but now I see they were helping me. And I didn't know who we were as a human race. Like, I knew nothing. I knew nothing. And like the whole fabric of my reality was pulled right out from underneath me in that moment. And like I had to start fresh. And
this is only 7 years ago. That's
yeah.
all.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
And so I just had a fear and frustration. I started to cry, and I pulled myself together. And then for the first time in my life, I admitted I needed help. I never admitted that before. I'm like, I can't go through this alone. But I had no idea what's going to help me. I was not in the UFO world at all. I would not watch anything with a gray. Whitley Strieber's book, I looked
Yeah.
at it once and turned it over again. And
Okay.
that's how I know I'm healed, because now Whitley's book is up next to my bed. And that's how I know I'm okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of like his book is kind of like a test.
Yeah,
Uh,
that triggered people all over the world.
Yeah, it was just too much for me. So I just decided, well, I'm going to get help, but I'm just going to let it organically happen, because I have no idea who helps experiencers. And then a couple months later, my friend who lives on the island of Kauai, she said, Seth, there's a movie by Dr. Stephen Greer called Unacknowledged, and I think you'll like it. So I watched it.
Right.
And that lit something inside of me. And as soon as it was over, I went to my computer and I told myself, this is it. I have to send a picture of this X to somebody, but to whom? And that's when I heard in my head, MUFON. I had
Wow.
no idea what that was.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
Googled it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing. And I saw a picture of Kathleen Martin. And I told myself, she's the one, she is going to help me. So I sent her a picture of my ex, an email, and she responded right away. And we Zoomed for an hour and a half, or we Skyped. And it was the most important conversation of my life. And she validated everything. And I said to her, what am I supposed to do
Right.
with all the information that the Greys have given me? Because I actually see myself standing on stage talking about this. But back then, that was zany, because there's no way I was going to come out. And there was no way I was going to let my clients know I'm talking to aliens. My clients could not know that.
Were you a therapist before all
Yes.
these X's were happening? Well, were you
I was
professionally?
I was a spiritual counselor or a spiritual healer. I was doing soul purpose sessions with clients around the
Okay.
world. Mhm.
Okay. Before the X's were happening in 2017.
Yeah, 7. I was doing that for about 7 years before the X's happened.
I see. Seb, I hate to interrupt. We have to take a little break. Couple of minutes, Race. We have to pay some bills, my brother. Let's rock and roll, and then we'll be right back with Seb Talk in a couple minutes.
Okay.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
The UnX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UnX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
And we're back. Let's bring Sev Talk back. There you go. Hello once again. Sorry about that. It's always so intrusive, those darn commercials. I want to jump ahead a little bit on my sheet over here. Can you tell us, please, what a soul purpose session is?
Thank you for asking.
Sure.
I've been doing these for 14 years, and it's interdimensional, multidimensional information that comes through about my client. It's information through my client's field, through their guides, my guides, and just picking up information that floats around us, because we live in a matrix of information that you can download. And everybody can do this. This information is available to everybody. It just takes practice. And so what comes through is your purpose, why you're here, how you can manifest it. Also, best career paths and how you can manifest them. Past life comes through. That explains something that's going on now. And also a mental pattern or two, and we all have them, that just keep us from progress or success. And I write everything down. It's about 6 to 8 pages worth of information that I send to you. I do these in person or Zoom. And it's basically like a blueprint for you to maximize your potential, activate your purpose, to become the most successful, most balanced, happiest, the most fulfilled and dynamic version of yourself that you can be.
That's wonderful. So when you're with a client, whether in person or Zoom, are you hearing? I'm clairaudient. I think you are as well. I've heard things my whole life that it's always in my right ear, and it's always a male voice in the right ear. Although once it was in the
That's
chandelier,
interesting.
changed my life. That's a whole other story. But
What?
so when you're with you, it changed my life. I'll tell you. It's in my book, Flirting with Fame. It's I'll do it quickly. I worked for this guy for 7 years. I hated his guts. He was my boss for 7 years. I hated him. I was bringing him hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in business, and I was only getting 10%.
Mm.
So after I was there for 7 years with this guy, I turned 40. And one day, the week I was 40, he and I went to a meeting with some clients in Beverly Hills at a hotel. And he's telling these clients how great he was and what a genius he is and how wealthy he is and how great, just on and on about how great he is. And I'm sitting there hating my life, Sev. I'm just hating my life.
Mm.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm 40 years old. I hate this guy. Why am I working for this guy? And I swear on my daughter's life, the chandelier at the Four Seasons Hotel, the chandelier, Dan, start your own business. I swear to God on my daughter. I go, what? A chandelier. Dan, start your own business. I swear on all things holy. I stood up. I looked at my boss. I go, I have to go now. He goes, what's happening? I go, I have to go. I went home. I called all my clients. Everyone said, wherever you go, I'll go. And 3 months later, I had a multi-million-dollar business because a chandelier, I swear, a chandelier changed my life. I don't know who it was. It was like God talking unto Moses on Mount Sinai. I had a chandelier talking unto me in Beverly Hills. So that's a true story.
Yeah, it's a great story. I wonder why it came through the chandelier. Because of all the crystals, crystals and all that. Yeah.
It was for this because normally I hear it in my right ear. Anyway, so when you're with clients and how are you learning about their past lives or their troubles? Are you just intuiting these things? Are you hearing messages? Are you feeling things in your heart? Can you explain that? What's happening?
It's all of it. I see images. I hear things like downloads, instant downloads. I can feel things. It's everything. It's all the senses. And so I don't ask my client any questions. I don't even want to know why they want a session. Wow. So they just come up on the screen. I'm like, hello, thank you very much. And I just start writing. And I just keep writing and writing 6, 7, 8 pages worth of information.
Is it automatic writing that you're doing, would you say?
Yeah. Wow. I would say that. I've been doing that since I was 16.
Wow. I definitely want to do this with you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I would love to.
I really would.
Thank you.
I think it's
great.
incredible.
Let's do it.
That's really, how often does a session last about?
It lasts an hour. And then I also have support sessions afterwards to keep you on track. Because my clients tell me after a session, they're really amped and your frequency is high and you're buzzing and you're like, I know why I'm on earth and I know what I have to do. And everything is pretty clear. But then a couple of days goes by, you're still in your old life with the same problems and the same people and the same bills. And it's kind of easy to fall off track. So I offer support sessions too to keep people on track.
Very cool. So in 2 days, this Saturday, I will be hypnotized by Yvonne Smith.
Ah, Yvonne.
I am going to her office. It's about an hour from where I live.
That's cool, Dan.
Because I have missing time from 5. When I was 5, I told her the other day about my missing time. And I fell off a billboard sign when I was 5. I fell through from a tall billboard sign that I was climbing with 2 little girlfriends. I was 5, fell through the air in slow motion. And then I have missing time. I woke up on a couch in a strange house a few blocks away from the sign. I looked around, no one was home, and I got up to leave. And there was a cryptid being. There was a 7-foot-tall cryptid being at the door, 7-foot-tall white chocolate. The bottom half looked like a donkey or a bull, and the top half looked like an angel with wings that had been cut off with bony stumps. And it had the face of a bull, and it looked at me, and it went like this, like that. It snorted. It snorted at me. And I looked at it. I thought, whatever that is, it doesn't like me very much. And then he left. And then I went outside. I had to look around to see where I was. And I walked home to Mommy's house. I've known that story my whole life, but I've only started to tell it recently. And my daughter said, Dad, that was a gargoyle that saved your life. When I fell off the sign, something happened because between falling through the air and waking up on the couch, I literally have missing time. So not Sev, Yvonne is going to hypnotize me. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Hopefully we'll get more out of what happened that day.
Yeah, and who knows what else is going to come through? There might be other things that come through too. Did those two little girls you were with, did they see this gargoyle?
That's what everyone's been asking me because I've been doing interviews all over the world, and I'm trying to find them. They would be in their 70s now. I'm trying to find them on social media. I haven't found them yet. But yeah, you would think. And here's the logic, right? Let's say I fell, I landed on the ground, and I passed out, which I must have done. These two little girls would have seen me. Now, why didn't they pick me up? They were older. Why didn't they pick me up and take me to my mother's house or
Maybe
their
they
mother
did.
or
Maybe
their
they
mother or
did.
their
Maybe
mother
I remember.
or their mother's house? No, I woke up on this couch with this cryptid in a strange house 2 blocks away
Oh, in a
from the
strange
sun.
house.
A stranger's house. No one was home either.
You were in a stranger's house.
I was in a stranger's house 2 blocks away from the sign. No one was home except a cryptid. It was me and a gargoyle. My first chapter of my new book. It's called My Gargoyle. I have a book called. I need to send this to you, Chef. It's my new book, My Paranormal Life.
I need that book.
My first chapter is called My Gargoyle.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy! You and a gargoyle in a strange living room.
No one was home, and that's the weird thing. I mean, in that era, this would have been 1961. My mommy was home making cookies, and my dad was at work. Why was no one in the house? Why was I inside an empty house, except with a cryptid? It wasn't with a person. This thing was not a person. I'll tell you that, whatever it was. All right, I don't want to eclipse this kind of time. This is your time.
No, that's okay. That was fascinating.
And I think it's a pretty good story. Let's jump to your book, Race. Let's jump to photo number 6, please. Photo number 6.
Thank you.
There we go. All right, Seth, please tell us how this book came about, and I need to get a copy, obviously. But what's in here, and what was your inspiration for this book?
This book, it was my conversation with Kathleen Martin, because I wrote this book. I started, I think, maybe like 3 or 4 months after we talked, and I wrote it pretty quickly. I wrote it in a few months, and I just woke up one morning and I said, I'm writing a book and I'm going to call it You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. And when I went to sleep that night, I had no thoughts of writing a book. Zero. It didn't even occur to me. I was not ready to write anything. I was not ready to come out. Nothing. I was still hiding. So when I woke up in the morning and I don't know, something happened to me that night. I don't know what it was, but I'm writing this book, and I started writing it right away, and it came out pretty easily. And then I was honored that Kathleen Martin endorsed it. And I've been meaning to write another book, but I keep changing my mind about what I'm going to write about. And Dan, I could really use your advice on how do you sort through, how do you decide? You have a zillion ideas too. I keep changing my mind. I can't decide on the one thing I'm going to write about. I'm like, okay, this is it. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm like, oh, no, it's this. Don't you have that problem?
I've written 5 books. Before each of the 5, I had a theme in mind. I walk 5 miles every other day. So in the last 5 years, as I've been walking, each book sort of just gave birth to itself. Race, you can kill that slide, please. Race. There we go. It's best, Sev, if you have a book, it's best to have an overarching theme, like a theme. Like you can have many different examples, but it's sort of best to have a theme, unless you're just doing rapid, like my book, My Paranormal Life. Those are series of oddball stories I've had my whole life since the age of 5. The only theme is that they're all paranormal. I mean, they're not related to each other. But yeah, we could talk offline about your ideas, sure.
Well, I don't. It keeps changing. I had an idea last week, and
you know what? Have one idea, stick with it, write it right there, write it down, and then if you have another one, say, okay, that book will be next year, and then the next idea, that's 2026. You have to. They're best to have them thematically. Hi, 7 roomies, Mark Eddy. What do I want to do now? All right. So you speak a lot about a variety of topics all over conferences all over the world. One of them that your topics, Steph, that intrigued me was military abductions,
Oh,
which
yeah.
people are way, including me, way less familiar with. Tell us about
Mhm.
military abductions.
All right, MILAB or MyLab.
My lab. Okay.
Grant Cameron says it should be pronounced MILAB because it's military abductions, not military abductions. So that's why I call it MILAB, MILAB. And I have had 5 or 6 conscious memory of MILAB.
You
My
have.
very, yes, my very, very first conscious memory of MILAB happened the night I talked to Kathleen Martin for the first time. And when I was talking to Kathleen, not only did I tell her asked her, what am I supposed to do with all this information that Grace gave me? I also confided in her that I was really afraid of the government because I've heard of men in black.
Sure.
Are they going to bother me? Are these stories true? And she said, well, they're true. And she gave me some examples of friends and things have happened to them. And
She lived with Betty Hill after Barney passed. I interviewed her last month, and she said that men in black, they would be out shopping and come back, and their house was all upside. Their clothes was everywhere. Their clothes were upside down. Everything was upside down. And then neighbors would tell Betty Hill that there had been men coming and going in and out of her house.
Yeah. The word yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's the part of the whole MILAB thing. It's like we're debriefed. So that night, well, in my conversation with Kathy, and I'm telling her that I'm afraid of the government, and I call my mom right after that conversation. And 10 minutes in, I'm on a landline. And 10 minutes in, the landline goes dead. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the government. They know me.
Because you spoke to Kathy Martin.
Yes.
Oh my
and so I called my partner at the time. I'm like, did we pay the bill? Like, what's happening? He goes, oh yeah, everything is paid. And it came back on in 10 minutes. It never went out again. Never went out before then. And that freaked me out. Then that night, I had my first conscious memory of a MILAB. And I was in this, it was like a government-like office, just drab colors. I remember going downstairs, so it was under the ground. And it's always the same men. They're in their 20s and 30s, slim, trim, short hair, wearing drab-colored uniforms. And they're not nice. Can't say they're mean, although they do really mean, horrible things. But their attitude is really, really neutral, whether they're being neutral or whether they're being horrible. I've had both experiences, neutral and horrible. And I've never heard anyone say that they had a good time in a MILAB experience. Like that just does not happen.
Are you drugged? Are you hypnotized? Are you able to speak to them? Are you just
I can talk. From what I remember, I can talk. So in this first one, I was led over to a poster. I actually drew it. I have drawings of this, the poster, and the poster was a flight path of a spaceship. And it had all these mathematical and scientific equations on it. And I have a biology degree from Loyola, so I'm familiar with those kind of equations, but I don't remember what equations were on there. And the guy standing next to me, and he looks at me and he asks me, so when does the spaceship attain the K point? And then I'm awake in my bedroom. I don't remember. So I told Grant Cameron this, and he sent me the story about a lady who made contact with the Greys, and they were teaching her about the K point. Now, I don't remember studying the K point in college, but I looked it up. It's a real thing. I don't quite remember what it is right now, but I remember hearing the term K point when I was watching the Winter Olympics, and I was watching the ski jumping. And the commentator said something about the skier attaining K point. So I don't know if it's the highest point here or maybe extrapolate down to here. I'm not quite sure. So it's a real thing. And then several MILAB experiences after that, neutral and downright horrible.
Did they do medical things on you?
Uh-huh.
painful, torturous kind of things?
My torture was mental. I don't remember physical torture, although I do remember looking down and seeing blood on the floor between my legs once, but I never felt like they physically hurt me. And so in these experiences, I'm either in this a government type office, that the same office that I'm in 2, 3 times. I recognize the office. I'm either with human young men, or I'm with older humans that look like doctors and nurses. I was also asked to heal very sickly hybrid babies, and there were also grays present in some of my MILAB experiences.
So,
It's a
so,
combination.
so some of the military experiences involved extraterrestrials and humans side by side?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in this room that I had been in before this one time, and there was a glass wall, a big glass wall between me and the next office.
Okay.
And so I'm looking into this next office, and once again, there's this guy next to me, and they bring in the office across from me this really tall gray. And he said to me, "This is the original gray." And then they took that one out and they brought in a shorter one. He said, "This is a hybrid of the original." And they take that one out and they brought in a little one. He said, "That's the hybrid of the original." And I understood with each one, sentience was lost.
Why do you think this is like this is the $64 million question? Why have you been contacted and taken by the military and all these experiences going back to the age of 10? You've probably had many that you've forgotten about entirely. Why do you, it seems to me that all this served to give you this remarkable purpose, Sev? Like you're a healer, you're a healer. So maybe all of this led to you becoming a global healer. Do you think that's why?
It feels that way. Yes. I started off having a spiritual practice, and then this whole UFO ET thing started. And so I have 3 topics that I talk about: spirituality, self-empowerment, actualizing your purpose. I also talk about UFOs and ETs, and then I talk about the in-between where they mix and meld, because they're connected.
I mean, I get emails all over the world because of the Hollywood disclosure, but you must get emails from contactees for all over the world for advice, right?
Yes,
all
and
the
I
time.
do welcome them. On my website, planetsev.com, I have a section that says, "Tell me your ET story." So just go there. I ask a couple questions, not many at all. This is very, very private. I do not divulge anybody, do not divulge names, and I'll respond to you and I'll help you.
You've probably had famous clients or high profile people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. You have
In
one
my
of,
spiritual practice,
yeah.
and also with UFOs and ETs. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have a popular lecture, I love this, entitled "My Therapist is an Alien."
Yes. Yeah.
I've always thought that about all of my therapists, but what does that mean? Explain that to me, because I think that's hysterically funny.
It's
What does
what
that
they've
mean?
taught me, starting from when I was 10 years old, and that being was teaching me things, and what the Greys were teaching me about authenticity. And so when they put the second X on me, I had to do some deep diving into myself, figure out what's going on. Why is this happening? I was already on a spiritual journey to find the most authentic version of myself. And so I was already on that process. And then the whole ET came up, because that was the one thing in my life that it was the last frontier for me, because that's what I was hiding. It was the last thing I had to face. And that was on my path of authenticity. It's not on everyone's path of authenticity. And in that journey, I realized, oh, wow, I play the victim role. I have played the victim role in every single relationship I've ever been. And I just always thought things were happening to me. Things were happening to me. And so it was this deep introspection that made me realize, no, that's not how it works. I create my reality. I manifest what I focused on mentally. And then through that process, I shed the victimization vibe, and I no longer look at my role or my purpose through that lens, and that completely changed my life. And the grace helped me do that. I also one afternoon, light beings came into my room, into my living room, and they gave me information about Tesla and Disney and Tchaikovsky.
Disney,
And
really Disney.
yeah,
That's interesting. Tesla,
and
I think is pretty obvious. At Disney, I didn't think of.
and
Wow,
Tchaikovsky, yeah,
Tchaikovsky. Yeah, that makes sense. I think
and
I think John Lennon and Paul McCartney could be added to that list. Quite
well,
frankly, think about that.
absolutely.
Right?
And well, John Lennon had an ET
I
encounter.
know. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Uri Geller gave him a little golden egg.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's great. Wow.
Uri Geller, the spoon bender.
So,
Yeah,
you were on the victim side of things,
yeah,
and then once you digested and embraced all of these remarkable experiences, you redesigned your life. You turned it around.
I did.
Instead of
And
reactive, you're proactive, and now you're helping other people. And it seems to me, and some of these experiences you had sound pretty scary. I mean, I'd have been scared, but you turned all you internalized all this. You dissected it in your mind. You're like took the good and the bad, and now you're giving back to the world. So
yes,
I
the
think
best that I
you've
can.
achieved your whatever it was you were supposed to do. So I think that's what you're doing right now.
Aw, thank you,
I
Dan.
think you hit the mark.
And I help experiences around the world, and I've determined that the ETs are giving us messages that pretty much fall into 5 categories: self-empowerment, the spiritual awakening, how to strengthen our psychic abilities. They show us potential, fate for humanity. They also teach us and show us scientific information or innovation, and they teach us about the hybridization program.
Interesting. My friend Mark Glenn Moore, who mentioned earlier, he's been taken by Pleiadians for 60 years mostly. 10 years ago, he said they took him and they told him that he needs to bring solar energy to the American Indians, Native American Indians in the American Southwest. They said, we want you to bring solar energy. They don't have it. They implanted, in his brain, a blueprint for a solar energy panel, a unique solar energy module, I think he called it. He came back down to Earth. He met with engineers. They created this module. He's brought power to tens of thousands of Native Americans. He's made millions of dollars, and he's doing right by this group of people because Pleiadians told him to do this. So that's one of your that's one of your 5 right there. That's proof. I think that's very interesting.
Yes, that is proof.
Yeah.
Wow. What's really cool about this person, I hope I get to meet him one day, is that he actually took action. That he didn't just sit on that information.
They told him. They said, Mark, we need you, or we want you to do this. And he said, okay. And he did. And he said it changed his life.
That's a good story. Oh, yeah. And it changed the life of many people. Yeah.
He's coming we're doing an HD event here in LA on Sunday. He's coming from San Francisco.
Oh, he's going to be
I'll
there.
tell him, you know what I'll do? I'll do an intro. You and he should become friends. I think you'd get along really. I love putting people together. That's what HDA is about, is putting people together.
Yeah.
Race, can we see slide number 7, please? So tell us about your show.
It's my new show, Alien Spirit with Sev. I have a YouTube channel called Alien Spirit with Sev. I've had it for years, but my radio show is pretty new. It's on KGRA, and it's also on my YouTube channel. And I've done about 5 or 6 episodes. It's pretty new. Dan's going to be on, and I'm really, really enjoying it. Love it so much. I could do this full time. Just talk to people all day long like this on a radio show. I love it so much.
Reisky, you can kill that, please. Yeah, it's funny, Sev. I've been a Hollywood publicist for over 40 years. And all that time, I have always, publicists are behind the scenes people. As a rule, we are behind the scenes people. My first book, Flirting with Fame, came out 2 years ago. It's my Hollywood book. And I started doing the book tours book signings and lectures and things. And people are like standing in line. I go, Dan, could I have your autograph? And I want your book. I'm like, really? You want my autograph? You want my autograph? It's like, remember De Niro? You talking to me? Are you talking to me? You can't be talking, because for 40 years I've done this for everyone else on the planet.
Yeah.
And to do it for yourself. And then I've had this show since January. It's almost a few months. It'll be a year.
Mhm.
And to talk to lovely people like you. But I had the Dolans, Richard and Tracy Dolan and Nick Pope and Avi Loeb did my show. I was really nervous. I'll tell you,
Wow,
about a month ago,
bet.
I had Avi Loeb on. I was nervous because, he's a genius and I'm a moron. And I was like, Dan, don't embarrass yourself. The guy's a genius.
I tuned into that show, but I tuned in just at the very, very tail end of it.
Well, they're all on my archive. All of
Okay,
these,
yeah, I'd like
all
to
of these
see that.
dopey shows that I do. They're all there. But no, this is a lot of fun to talk to people. Last question. You are MUFON's, I think you still are, MUFON's assistant state director for North Carolina? Not anymore?
Well, I was the state director. I was the assistant, and then I became the state director. And I was also on the Experiencer Resource team. However, I resigned in June.
That's right. Okay. Do you have any good MUFON-related interviews of people or researchers, anything that you did in particular you'd like to talk about? And that looks like a no. No, you don't want to talk about, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. Okay. What else do I have? You've written articles. Some of your articles have included titles, What the Aliens Taught Me About Authenticity and What's It Gonna Take?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you found that.
I dig. I dig. I don't leave any stone unturned. Just, we only have a few minutes. What in your articles, what is it that you're trying to tell?
That might have been the blog I wrote for Nassim Harriman. You know Nassim Harriman?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, I wrote a blog for a conference that they had, and that's basically the story of my two exes, how that changed my life, and how that changed my perspective. It's all about changing perspective.
Yeah, I mean, your experiences re-engineered and redesigned your path, didn't they?
Yes, as they do all experiencers, whether you're consciously aware of it or not.
It sounds like that. I'll do this really quickly. 3 days after my father died, I went to a deli in LA to get a pastrami sandwich and mourned my father. As I'm sitting there, a powerful beam of light hit me in the head and projected through my eyes a color 3D hologram home movie that God apparently shot of me and my father when we saw a UFO together in 1970. It played.
Aww.
This is 2017. It played in the air with audio. And I watched it. And I saw me and my father in a UFO from 47 years earlier. This is 3 days after my father died. Mm-hmm. And a long story short is, after that experience, it was a download. I believe it was my father from heaven. And part of that download, I did automatic writing, and my hand write a book about benevolent aliens. Lead character's father knew about UFOs. And then I wrote capital ATC. And then 8 months later, I had my book After They Came. And then I met Steve Bassett. And then I created the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. And then I became the publicist for Contacting the Desert. And then I got my podcast. So because I went for a sandwich.
I love that book. That is an excellent book, by the way. You wrote ATC?
I swear to you, I wrote capital A, capital T, capital C. My hand did. And then my hand stopped moving. I didn't know what it was. And I looked at it. And I go, well, I guess I have to write a book. Remember you said you had no interest in writing a book? I went to get a pastrami sandwich. I left with a book. And thanks to this thanks to my dopey book, I got to meet people like you. Yeah. You and Avi Loeb and Nick Pope and Richard Dolan and Steve Bassett and everyone else. We got to wrap up. I love you. I adore you. This was super fun. I can't wait to do your show. We'll do part 2 in October. Have a lovely week. And I'll send you the link to the show after. It'll be on the archive. And thank you for all that you do. You help all of us out here. And I think you're a lovely person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. I wish we had more time. Next week is Yvonne Smith on my show. She's going to hypnotize me Saturday. So we should have a pretty good story to tell a week from today. I'm Dan Harari, live from wherever I am, live from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. I'll see you all next week. Thank you for watching.